And tonight, the cost of President Barack Obama's arrogance could very well be a trip off the fiscal cliff. Now, his true nature is being revealed in the aftermath of the election. Now, he is deeply liberal, deeply ideological, reckless, irresponsible, and he has no interest in seriously negotiating with the Republican Party, and he is now putting partisan politics ahead of what is good for America. Now, even the Washington Post is calling him out, saying he has no intention to negotiate, writing, quote, "The offer lacks any concessions to Republicans, most notably on the core issue of where to set the tax rates for the wealthiest Americans." Now, let me repeat. The offer lacks any concessions. Now, if you want the most recent concrete evidence of just how irresponsible President Obama is, you need to look no further than his opening bid in these budget talks. Now, the Obama proposal, which was offered to Republicans late yesterday, courtesy of Treasury Secretary, tax cheat Tim Geithner, it calls for the following: a $1.6 trillion tax increase, increasing tax rates on incomes over $250,000, $150 billion in new public stimulus spending, of which $50 billion would be spent next year. Another extension in unemployment benefits, well, that would cost $30 billion. And the new power to raise the federal debt limit without congressional approval. In other words, an Obama blank check. Now, that's awful, but it's not all. President Obama also wants the estate tax to be levied at 45% on inheritances, and that is a step that even several Democratic senators, they're balking at this. Now, the current tax on inheritance is 35%. Now, the Obama offer contained no serious cuts, no serious reforms to entitlement programs, and no serious proposals of tax reform, and this president had the gall to once again count as savings more than $1 billion from ending the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, even though no one on the planet has proposed war spending over the next decade. And by the way, that includes cuts to domestic programs that were agreed to last year. That's fuzzy Washington math. What this really is Obama's budget proposal last year, which, by the way, received 0 votes in either the House or the Senate. Now, this is disguised as a so-called compromise offer. Don't be fooled by this. It is no such thing. Now, Obama's so-called offer was, in fact, nothing less than a disgrace, what he did yesterday with Tim Geithner. The proposal was as dishonest and misleading as the day is long. So the question now tonight is, how should the GOP respond to this travesty? Now, Republicans, I think, should do several things. The first is do what Senator Mitch McConnell did yesterday, which is literally laugh at the Obama proposal. Now, the second is refuse to negotiate with Obama seriously over this proposal. In other words, essentially, Republicans have got to walk away. It's up to Obama to make a serious proposal, instead of, well, pretty much dealing with a joke. They also need to tell Secretary Tax Cheat Tim Geithner in the middle of this, in the most direct way, that this proposal is dead on arrival, and he can save himself time and energy next time by not even submitting an Obama plan like this to Republicans. The bottom line is this: it's just not serious, and they should have no interest, Republicans that is, in playing stupid games with the administration. Now, third, Republicans need to shine a bright light on the Obama proposal to ensure that the American people just know how insane and ludicrous this is. And fourth, Republicans need to use the opportunity to pass their own agenda. They need to show that they're not simply obstructionists, that they themselves have a positive, a forward-looking agenda that they're proud of, very eager to take to the country. So Republicans need to make the case morning, noon, and night that it is Obama who seems absolutely determined for political reasons to take the country over the fiscal cliff. Now, our first guest tonight is the author of Victory at Yorktown. He is live tonight in Richmond, Virginia, as part of his American Legacy Tour. Former presidential candidate, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. Mr. Speaker, welcome back.
It's good to be with you.
All right, so there's my proposal.
Interesting times.
What'd you say?
I said they're interesting times.
You say that with a smile on your face. There are a lot of our friends that are not happy about this.
Look, one of the reasons I write historical fiction is to remind people that sometimes freedom's difficult. Crossing the Delaware on Christmas night in a snowstorm was very difficult. Marching 9 miles with a third of the army wearing burlap bags because they had no boots, leaving a trail of blood, that's difficult. Now, where are we today? You have a president who believes that he can bully and outmaneuver and out-propagandize the Republicans. He clearly believes the Republicans will cave, and he is treating them with a level of disdain and arrogance that is, I think, breathtaking. The Republicans need to take a big step back rethink the role of the legislative branch and understand that they have gone down a trail that has no positive outcome. A legislative branch does 5 things. It appropriates, it legislates, it has oversight, it communicates, and it negotiates. They have been overwhelmingly fixated on negotiate, but their real power is appropriate, legislate, oversight, and communicate. And I would urge the House and Senate Republicans to take a deep breath, pull all the way back, say, when you have a serious proposal, send it up. We're not going to meet with Geithner. We're not going to meet with anybody. We'll look at a proposal. We both have fax machines. We both have email. We have lots of ways of delivering things. And then I would focus on, one, how are they going to control appropriations? Obama can't spend a penny if the Congress doesn't give it to him. The House Republicans don't have to give the Senate Democrats a penny. 2, what do they need oversight on? Because if every committee and subcommittee was looking at how bad this administration is wasting our money, the president wouldn't have the gall to ask for more stimulus money. 3, what legislation do they want to move? And I don't think they should move big bills. They should move lots and lots of small bills. Make the Democrats block over and over in the Senate. Set a stage for an obstructionist Democrat re-election effort in 2014. And then, frankly, they need to get their act together on communication. It is pathetic how badly Republicans do, whether it's the presidential campaign or it's trying to govern, when they are competing with the news media and Obama, which is essentially the same thing. They have got to really rethink their entire communication strategy.
Well, I got to tell you, I think I like your proposal better than mine, especially what you said about well, because I said one piece of legislation, but you're right, I'm wrong. I think a series of, peace.
Thank you very much. Very grateful. That's nice.
No, I'm listening very closely to what you're saying, because I think that is a far more effective way, strategy and tactic than what I propose, which is one piece and say, all right, well, now deal with that. I think to show what the very things the Democrats are against is a good idea. I have one question. Howard Dean and some of the people on the hard left, they've actually come out and said that this is a good thing, because the thinking is they get sequestration, they get to gut the military, they get to raise everybody's taxes, but they don't get the blame for it, and they get to blame Republicans. Do you think this is maybe the strategy of the president, considering how awful and insulting that plan was that he offered?
I think it could be his tactic, his goal. But look, I think Republicans ought to eliminate the term fiscal cliff. I just wrote my newsletter that people can get at GingrichProductions.com, and the entire newsletter is designed to say there is no fiscal cliff. This is a fantasy. What you have today is the Washington elite chanting fiscal cliff, fiscal cliff, fiscal cliff, hoping to convince Republicans to do something really stupid, because the alternative would be going off the fiscal cliff. The fiscal cliff is an invention of people, the very people who are trying to bully us right now. All you have to say is, let's break it down into 12 or 15 foothills, no cliffs. Now let's one by one solve each of the smaller problems until we get to some solutions. You don't have to panic over this, but I want to confess something here, Sean. What I outlined for you, I actually copied from Tip O'Neill. When O'Neill was faced with Ronald Reagan in 1981, he knew that he couldn't beat him in head-to-head negotiating, but he thought he could preserve the Democratic Party and preserve the welfare state in a long battle of attrition. And so O'Neill, who had a Republican Senate, a Republican president, used the power of the House over and over again to slow down the momentum. I think Republicans have got to understand, they're not going to get any good deal from Barack Obama. He has contempt for them. He shows that contempt on a regular basis. He's a hardline left-winger. And so they've got to think through, the American people have chosen him. He's going to be our president for 4 years. What does an effective conservative House do in a period where it is having to maneuver against both liberal Democrats in the Senate and a very, very liberal president? And frankly, it may surprise you, but Tip O'Neill is a pretty good person to study to see how he did it in the 1980s.
I think I agree with you. How would you deal with the communication problem that you mentioned? Because I agree with you, it's been atrocious.
The first thing I do is I'd see how many of the House and Senate Republicans are prepared to sign up for serious communications. And I'd actually build a methodical plan. When we took on reforming Medicare in 1996, which was a huge challenge, with a Democrat in the White House, we trained every member of the House caucus to be able to go out and to talk about Medicare in an intelligent, effective way. We knew what we were trying to say, and I would tell you, the Congressional Campaign Committee's campaign this last year on the Medi-Scare project, they beat the Democrats in virtually every district where that became an issue. So I would start with the National Republican Congressional Campaign approach, but then I would grow it dramatically into a much more comprehensive effort to communicate to every single American of every background.
All right, Mr. Speaker, I'm feeling better about what the Republicans can do. You've done a great job, and I tip my hat, but stay right there.